Hello, welcome to Through Lucy's Lens, weekly videos where I go somewhere interesting, usually with a bit of a history spin, and hopefully you will find them interesting too. This is a bonus video, short and sweet, but it's somewhere that I've wanted to show you for a long time. I'm on my lunch break. I am in the Bawdsley Green area of Birmingham. And this was the hangout of the Real Peaky Blinders, and it's also the location of the Garrison Pub, the real Garrison Pub that shows up in the drama, and also was where they drank in real life. This area is also where my roots lie. My family, my mother's family, all lived in this area of Birmingham, Bawdsley Green. This is where their back-to-back houses were. It's completely different to how it was then. But I like being in this area because it's where I come from, and that's so important to me. Let's go and have a quick look at it. The real Garrison Pub is here in Small Heath, Birmingham, just a mile from the city centre. In the 19th century, it was a hive of activity. Dark, smoggy, overcrowded and packed with a plethora of industry and housing for the people who lived here. Most of the housing in this area was for the working classes, small back-to-back houses and terraces which provided a rat run of alleyways, dark corners and a strong knit community. In all communities, a pub was at the heart, and here on the corner of Garrison Lane and Whitton Street in Small Heath is the Garrison Pub, also known as the Garrison Tavern. You might have heard of this pub, as it's the inspiration for the Garrison Tavern owned by the Shelby family in the Peaky Blinders TV series. And whilst this pub was the inspiration for the pub in the TV series, and apparently even Cillian Murphy was brought here to see it before filming, the actual pub in the series is sadly a TV set. But why choose this pub as an inspiration, and why here? Surely any pub would have done. Well, it's because in this area, some of the real criminal gangs, like those romanticised in the Peaky Blinders, lived, operated and probably had a drink. According to Carl Chin, a Birmingham native and professor of history at Birmingham University, and I must add, actual local hero, the real Peaky Blinder gang came to prominence in the 1890s. The first written record is found in a newspaper report, and it reports a brutal attack on a young man after an evening spent in a local pub. The incident was reported in the Birmingham press with no mention of the Peaky Blinders, but national newspapers picked it up, and soon after, one London paper received a letter claiming that the Peaky Blinder gang of Small Heath was responsible for the attack in the pub. These Victorian street gangs were a far cry from the organised and glamorous Peaky Blinders depicted on our screens. They were typical of the street gang culture that arose in industrial cities in the 19th century, such as the Scuttlers gang in Manchester and the penny mobs in Glasgow. The Birmingham gangs were known as sloggers, violent young men scraping a living through robbery and threats, and they fought with sharpened belt buckles and iron bars. The Peaky Blinders were just one of several street gangs that took their lead from the sloggers. They were feared and they were lawless, known for their distinctive style of bell-bottom trousers and silk scarves. They were not nice people to know or to be around, and certainly wouldn't be becoming mayor of Birmingham further down the line. And what about these razor blades sewn into caps? Well, Carl Chin says there's no evidence. He claims that the name simply came from the fashion for young men in industrial towns to wear flat caps rather than bowler hats like their fathers would have done. You can see this in some of the police mugshots of some of the real gang members. The Peaky Blinders and their counterparts terrorised Birmingham throughout the 1890s, but their reign of terror came to an end as the century turned. Carl Chin thinks this was largely due to increased policing and stricter sentencing under the new police chief, Sir Charles Horton. The Peaky Blinders then were suppressed, and historical references seemed to disappear in the early 1900s, but that wasn't the end of the story. New gangs emerged in the lead up to World War One, namely the Brummie Boys, a gang of thieves and pickpocketed who targeted racetracks and football matches. They frequently resorted to violent tactics when their victims wouldn't hand over the goods. One man eventually emerged as leader of this Brummie gang, and fans of the show will recognise his name, Billy Kimber. Billy Kimber is depicted as Tommy Shelby's Cockney nemesis in the series, but in reality he was Birmingham, born and bred, and lived right here. He was a charismatic man who by the early 1920s had risen to become one of the most powerful mob bosses in the country. Billy Kimber rose to prominence through crime, running racecourse rackets. And because of his roots in Birmingham's illegal gambling operation, it was a natural progression for Billy Kimber to make his mark. He had a willing army of men under his command, willing to do anything to make their lives better. In 1922, a police report declared that the Birmingham gang was mostly made up of convicted thieves of the worst type, who had convictions from assaulting the police to housebreaking, wounding, and even to manslaughter. In real life, Billy Kimber, the leader of the Birmingham Boys, died of a long illness in 1945 at the age of 63. He was by that time living in Torquay in the south of England. So as a historian, what do I take from all this? Well, I like watching the Peaky Blinders, but I have to disconnect it from the real facts. The real Peaky Blinders existed and they were nice people. They're part of a longer history of street gang culture, and they tell the story to me of poverty and survival of the fittest in a city where life for the working classes was hard and relentless. So maybe they felt like a life of crime seemed beneficial. But I think we all know that crime never really pays, and in the end, should we really be glamorising a group of people best left in the cells at Steelhouse Lane Police Station? As I stand here though and walk these streets, I do feel excited about what has gone here before me. And anyone that visits Birmingham on the trail of the Peaky Blinders is very welcome here. Just be aware that the pub is all shut up. There's no ale on offer. Pop to the cafe next door instead to soak it up. The owner told me that people from all over the world visit to see the Garrison Tavern, and they're sorely disappointed that the pub is now student flats and that they see that it's not the actual pub shown in the TV series. So this here is my public service announcement. You can get a brilliant bacon sandwich, but no look around the real Garrison Tavern. Well, gosh, I enjoyed that. It felt like going back to the beginning of the channel when I just used to pop out with my phone and do what I wanted to do. And yeah, do you know how much this cup of tea was in that amazing Peaky Blinders themed cafe? £1. £1 for Barry's Irish tea that I've had as it should be, strong and milky. Thank you so much for coming with me. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for the coffees and the teas. Oh, I need this cup of tea so much. Until the next episode, which is a full length one. I'll see you later. Bye bye.